Did just learn that legendary actor and director Robert Redford has passed away.
World mourning the loss of legendary actor and director Robert Redford.
Shocking news has just surfaced, and it involves none other than Hollywood legend Robert Redford. At 89, the iconic actor, director, and activist who shaped generations with his timeless performances and powerful storytelling now faces devastating details that have left fans worldwide heartbroken. For decades, Redford has been admired not only for his talent.
I don't want a panel either. I just want to get up there and say what I came to say.
Well, we'll go over it, but you can't say too much on TV.
I thought the point was to say what I wanted.
But also for his impact on cinema and culture. But this latest revelation is unlike anything we've heard before, raising urgent questions about his legacy, his health, and his future. The rise of a legend. Robert Redford's story begins in the most unassuming of places, far from the spotlight that would one day make him a household name.
Should we get in the war? Should we not get in the war? Stalin's for Hitler, Stalin's against Hitler.
Born in 1936 in Santa Monica, California, he was just a boy during a time when the world seemed uncertain, marked by the tail end of the Great Depression and the upheaval of the Second World War.
And bank after bank across the country is hit by panic withdrawals. New lines appear on American streets, depositors swarming to snatch out what savings they have left before it's too late.
His early life was modest, grounded, and without the glitter of Hollywood privilege. And yet, even then, there was a quiet resilience in him, a trait that would carry him through both triumphs and tragedies. What makes Redford's rise so remarkable is that he never seemed destined for stardom. In fact, art, not acting, was his first true calling. After high school, he pursued painting and even studied in Europe, wandering through foreign streets with the soul of an artist in search of meaning. But life has a strange way of redirecting paths. Upon returning to the United States, Redford enrolled in acting classes in New York City. It was there that his natural charisma, piercing presence, and ability to transform into a character began to attract attention. Television gave him his first platform in the late 1950s and early 1960s. He appeared in shows like The Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Small roles that honed his craft and gave audiences a taste of the quiet intensity that would one day define him. But his true breakthrough came not on television, but on the Broadway stage. In Barefoot in the Park, Redford's performance captivated audiences with charm, wit, and an undeniable magnetism.
Tell them you're sick.
I am sick, but I have to go in today.
Last night you promised you'd never leave me.
It's just till 5:30. Just until 5:30. Corey, if it's a good marriage, it'll last until 5:30.
He wasn't just an actor. He was a presence. Hollywood quickly came calling. The late 1960s brought the role that changed everything. In 1969, Redford starred alongside Paul Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It wasn't just a film, it was an event. His portrayal of the Sundance Kid wasn't flashy or forced. It was natural, effortless, and deeply authentic. Audiences fell in love with his rugged charm, and the film's success catapulted him into global stardom. That role didn't just make Robert Redford a star, it etched him into the mythology of American cinema. The 1970s became his golden era. With The Sting, he once again shared the screen with Newman, their chemistry creating box office magic. In The Way We Were, opposite Barbra Streisand, he revealed a softer, more romantic side.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Do you smile all the time?
No.
Proving his range extended beyond action and adventure. And in All the President's Men, he took on the story of Watergate, reminding audiences that film could inform and inspire, not just entertain. Redford wasn't just a matinee idol. He was intelligent in his choices, balancing commercial hits with socially relevant projects. By the end of the decade, he wasn't just an actor, he was an icon. His face was everywhere, his name synonymous with quality, and his career a blueprint for those who followed. Yet, even as we celebrate this golden journey, there's a quiet tragedy in looking back. The dazzling rise that once seemed unstoppable now feels fragile in the shadow of today's devastating news. Redford's legacy was built on triumph, but like all legends, it carries with it the bittersweet reminder that even the brightest stars cannot shine forever. But what truly defines Robert Redford? Actor, director, or tireless advocate? Stay connected to your screen to find out. Robert Redford is more than an actor. Robert Redford could have easily remained in the comfortable spotlight of Hollywood stardom, but for him, acting was never the final destination. He was always reaching for more, not out of restlessness, but out of a genuine belief that film and fame could be used in ways far greater than personal glory. His path beyond the screen revealed not just a talented actor, but a visionary director, a cultural architect, and a voice for causes bigger than himself. His directorial debut, Ordinary People, in 1980, was proof that Redford wasn't afraid to take risks. For his very first project, he chose not a glossy epic or a safe commercial script, but an intimate family drama dealing with grief, silence, and emotional fracture. Critics praised his sensitivity, his ability to draw layered performances, and his courage to let silence speak louder than words. The film won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and Redford himself walked away with the Oscar for Best Director, an extraordinary achievement that instantly shifted how the industry saw him. But Redford's directing career was not without its challenges. While A River Runs Through It, in 1992, showcased his poetic eye for nature and helped launch Brad Pitt into superstardom, not all of his later films resonated as strongly with audiences or critics. Some argued that his pacing could be too deliberate. Others felt his vision sometimes prioritized message over entertainment. Yet, even when reviews were divided, no one doubted his commitment to meaningful storytelling. Perhaps Redford's most influential contribution off-screen came with the creation of the Sundance Institute in 1981. What started as a workshop for nurturing independent filmmakers grew into the Sundance Film Festival, a global stage for bold, unconventional, and boundary-pushing cinema. Sundance reshaped the industry, proving that small-budget films could rival major studio productions in cultural impact. Careers were born at Sundance. Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh, and countless others owe part of their trajectory to the platform Redford created. Still, Sundance wasn't immune to criticism. As it grew, some accused the festival of drifting away from its original grassroots mission, becoming too commercial or dominated by industry insiders. Redford himself acknowledged the tension, admitting that balancing authenticity with growth was one of the hardest challenges he faced. Yet, despite the criticism, Sundance remains a powerful force in global cinema, and its existence is inseparable from Redford's vision. Beyond film, Redford became known for his outspoken activism, particularly for environmental causes. His love for the natural world wasn't manufactured for headlines. It was rooted in his childhood in the American West. Over the decades, he supported renewable energy, conservation, and climate action, lending his voice and influence to campaigns and legislation. Admirers saw him as a celebrity who genuinely used his platform for good, while critics sometimes dismissed his activism as Hollywood idealism. Either way, he never retreated from the causes he believed in. When looking at this chapter of Redford's life, one thing is clear: he refused to be boxed in. He wasn't satisfied with just being the face on a poster. He wanted to shape stories, empower others, and fight for issues close to his heart. And while not every project, film, or campaign landed perfectly, together they paint the portrait of a man who was never afraid to dream bigger than the screen. But what hidden struggles lie behind Robert Redford's fame and heartbreaks? Stay glued to your screen for the full story. Behind the fame, audiences often see Robert Redford as the polished legend, the movie star whose face illuminated posters, magazines, and cinema screens for decades. Yet, behind the fame, away from the red carpets and camera flashes. His life was far from perfect. Like many great artists, Redford carried a series of private struggles and heartbreaks that often remained hidden from the public eye, shaping him in ways few truly understood. One of the deepest tragedies in Redford's life came early, and it's something no parent ever forgets. In 1959, Redford and his first wife, Lola Van Wagenen, suffered the devastating loss of their infant son, Scott, who died from sudden infant death syndrome. The grief was unimaginable. At a time when Redford was still trying to establish himself in acting, he was confronted with the harshest form of personal loss. It left an emotional scar that never fully healed, even though he rarely spoke about it publicly. His family life continued to be marked by both joy and hardship. Redford and Lola had 3 more children, Shauna, James, and Amy. But tragedy would strike again decades later. His son James, known as Jamie, pursued filmmaking and philanthropy, following in his father's footsteps in his own way. However, Jamie suffered from chronic health problems for much of his life, enduring 2 liver transplants before ultimately passing away in 2020 at the age of 58 due to cancer. For Robert Redford, losing not just 1 but 2 children across his lifetime was a burden of sorrow that few could imagine carrying. Even in his marriages, Redford's personal journey was complicated. His first marriage to Lola lasted nearly 3 decades before ending in divorce in 1985. The breakup was quiet, but it was also a reminder that fame and personal life rarely coexist without strain. Years later, he found love again with Sibylle Zagers, a German artist, whom he married in 2009. This second chapter in his personal life brought companionship and peace, though it could never erase the tragedies of the past. Beyond family, Redford faced his share of health battles. While he kept many of his personal medical details private, he endured physical challenges that tested his resilience. In later years, he acknowledged the toll aging took on him, leading to his decision to retire from acting in 2018 after the release of The Old Man and the Gun. For fans, the announcement was bittersweet. It marked the end of an era, but it also highlighted the fragile reality that even legends cannot escape time's grip. Financially, too, Redford's journey wasn't always straightforward. Despite immense success, he was not immune to the pressures that come with balancing artistry and responsibility. Running the Sundance Institute and Festival, while groundbreaking, brought challenges, financial strains, critical scrutiny, and the pressure to maintain its independence in an increasingly commercialized film world. Yet, he never walked away, driven by a belief that supporting new voices mattered more than the difficulties he faced. Another layer of Redford's private life was his complicated relationship with fame itself. Unlike many Hollywood stars who thrived on attention, Redford often retreated from it. He valued privacy and rarely gave away too much of himself in interviews. Some saw this as a mystery, others as distance. But in truth, it was his way of protecting what little of his personal life he could, knowing that tragedy and hardship were already more than enough to bear without public scrutiny. Still, for all the pain, Redford's personal struggles were not without meaning. They informed his art, deepened his performances, and gave him a perspective that perhaps only those who have walked through loss can fully understand. Whether portraying a wounded romantic in The Way We Were, or a relentless journalist in All the President's Men, Redford often tapped into emotions that came from a place far deeper than mere performance. Behind the fame, Robert Redford's life has been one of striking contrasts, soaring triumphs and shattering losses, quiet joys and profound heartbreaks. It is a reminder that legends, no matter how untouchable they may seem, live human lives filled with both light and shadow. And in Redford's case, those shadows are as much a part of his story as the dazzling spotlight that made him a star. But what hidden truth lies behind the devastating news, shaking fans worldwide? Could this change everything? Stay with us to find out. The breaking point. The moment devastating news emerges about someone as admired as Robert Redford, it is never just about the headlines. It is about the emotions it stirs in millions of fans who grew up with his films, the colleagues who worked beside him, and the broader cultural community that sees him not only as an actor, but as a symbol of an era. The phrase "breaking point" feels especially fitting here, because the latest updates about Redford carry a weight that touches every part of his story, his health, his career, and the fragility of his legacy. What we know is that Robert Redford, now in his late 80s, has faced challenges that inevitably come with age. Reports surrounding his health and well-being have unsettled fans, sparking concern across social media and news outlets. For some, this devastating news signals the end of an era, a reminder that the stars who once seemed untouchable are human after all. But at the same time, not all details are entirely clear. Conflicting reports leave room for speculation, and that uncertainty often magnifies the sense of tragedy. On one hand, there are voices emphasizing his strength, pointing out how Redford has endured hardships before, whether through personal loss, public pressures, or the sheer demands of decades in Hollywood. On the other hand, there are updates that suggest his current struggles may be more serious than fans hoped. This duality has left many unsure how to process the news. Is this the twilight of a long and remarkable life, or just another chapter in a story defined by resilience? The reaction from the public has been overwhelming. Fans from across the globe have been posting tributes, sharing their favorite Redford films, and recounting what his work meant to them personally. Whether it's a memory of watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid for the first time, or being inspired by the raw storytelling of All the President's Men, people are finding comfort in remembering his art. It is a testament to the impact he made that even in the shadow of devastating news, his legacy shines brightly. Hollywood itself has responded with respect and caution. Fellow actors, directors, and producers have expressed both sadness and admiration, acknowledging the uncertainty while also celebrating the man they knew. Some remember him as a colleague who lifted others up, while others point to his achievements with Sundance as proof of his generosity toward the next generation of filmmakers. This mix of grief and gratitude creates a bittersweet atmosphere, an acknowledgement of loss while clinging to the parts of his legacy that can never be taken away. Yet the devastating aspect is not only about Redford's personal struggles, it's also about what his decline, whether gradual or sudden, represents for the industry. With every passing year, we are reminded that Hollywood's golden generation, the actors who defined cinema in the 1960s and 70s, is slowly fading. Redford's news feels personal to so many because it symbolizes the closing of a chapter in film history itself. Of course, in moments like these, it is easy to speculate or sensationalize. But the truth is often more complicated. Health struggles can improve or worsen, careers can fade or be revived in surprising ways, and legacies can continue to grow long after a person steps out of the spotlight. Stretching across the layers of this story, what we can say for certain is that the devastating news has unified people in reflection. It has reminded fans and colleagues alike of how much one man's artistry can mean, and how fragile even the strongest legends can be. In the end, the breaking point is not just Robert Redford's, it is ours too. It is the moment where admiration collides with reality, where the stories we cherished confront the inevitability of time. No matter what lies ahead, the devastating news has forced the world to pause, reflect, and realize just how deeply Robert Redford has been woven into the fabric of our lives. But what if Robert Redford's fragile legacy hides truths behind the myth? Keep watching. Remembering the man behind the myth. Whenever the conversation turns to Robert Redford today, it's impossible not to recognize the weight of his legacy. His name alone evokes images of a golden era of cinema, groundbreaking independent films, and a fearless voice for causes larger than himself. Yet as we look back on the full arc of his journey, his legacy feels both monumental and fragile, a reminder of how even the most towering figures are still human, shaped by triumphs and scars alike. On one hand, Redford's influence on film is undeniable. As an actor, his performances became cultural touchstones. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, All the President's Men, The Way We Were. These weren't just movies, they were defining moments in American cinema. His ability to balance charm with depth made him both relatable and iconic, ensuring his work would live on far beyond his own lifetime. But beyond the screen, his contributions are just as significant. The founding of the Sundance Institute and the Sundance Film Festival forever altered the trajectory of global cinema. By creating a space for independent filmmakers, Redford ensured that voices outside the Hollywood system could be heard. Today, countless directors credit their breakthroughs to Sundance, a living testament to Redford's vision. This alone would be enough to secure his place in history. Yet no legacy is without its complexities. Redford's personal life was marked by heartbreaks and tragedies, the loss of a child, health battles, and the strain of fame on family relationships. While fans celebrated the star, those close to him often saw a man carrying quiet burdens. These struggles remind us that even legends are vulnerable, and that their brilliance on screen often conceals private battles. His activism, too, was not without controversy. For decades, Redford spoke out on environmental and political issues, often placing himself at odds with powerful interests. Some praised him as a courageous advocate, while others criticized him as being out of touch or too political. In this way, his legacy is divided, admired by many for his convictions, yet challenged by those who saw him differently. And now, with devastating news surrounding his life, fans and critics alike are left reflecting on what remains. Is Redford's story defined by the dazzling heights of Hollywood, the groundbreaking work at Sundance, or the personal tragedies that shadowed his success? The truth is that it is all of these at once. His legacy is not a single thread, but a tapestry woven from brilliance, flaws, resilience, and loss. As time moves forward, Robert Redford will be remembered not just as a movie star, nor solely as a director or activist, but as a man who dared to live fully in the light and the shadow. His fragile legacy is powerful, precisely because it is human. And in remembering him, we remember that even myths are mortal, and even legends carry the weight of tragedy. So, what do you think this devastating news truly means for Robert Redford's legacy? An ending or a turning point? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.